Hi, I'm Gail Sokol and welcome to my kitchen. So many of you have seen my puff pastry in a hurry video, and many of you have reached out and asked me if I know how to do Danish pastry in a hurry. And as a matter of fact, I do, and that's what we're going to be doing today. So let's get started on a very easy and very quick Danish pastry in a hurry. And Danish pastry is a little different. It's a little richer than puff pastry because it has yeast in it and it has milk and eggs and sugar in it. So 2 cups of flour, all-purpose flour, in a food processor, 1/4 cup of granulated sugar, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 1 3/4 teaspoons of instant dry yeast, that's fast rising yeast, and a special ingredient called cardamom, M-O-M. And this is related to the ginger family. I'm going to put 1/4 teaspoon of ground cardamom in there. Has a little bit of a floral note to it and adds a little warmth and just that little something extra to your Danish pastry. So now we're going to blend these up. Just our dry ingredients. We're going to pulse them so everything gets evenly distributed, and give this a few seconds to do. Okay, now we're going to add 2 sticks, and that's 16 tablespoons of cubed cold butter. We're going to add that in there. And we're only going to pulse this for a short time, just until we get large pea-sized pieces. Because this is what is ensuring our flakiness. And remember, Danish pastry, just like puff pastry, is very flaky. All right. When we have pea-sized pieces, and we do, I'm going to put all this into a bowl and add our liquid ingredients. So I put our ingredients from our food processor into a bowl, and we've got beautiful chunks of butter, and we don't want to lose that butter. It's nice and cold, and that's what gives Danish pastry its flakiness. So we must keep those flakes of butter and those chunks of butter intact. So I'm going to mix in liquid ingredients, rich liquid ingredients, separately, not in the food processor. Don't be tempted to do it in the food processor because you'll actually squish the butter and make it into such fine little pieces that you will lose all your flakiness. So in a measuring cup or a bowl, I'm going to put 1/2 cup of whole milk, and use whole milk because you need that richness. 1/2 teaspoon of pure vanilla extract, 1 large egg, the whole egg, and 2 tablespoons of water. Cold water is fine. And I'm just going to whisk that up. And I'm going to add it right into our dry ingredients, our flour and butter mixture. And I have a big fork. I'm just going to move it around with the fork, get it wet. And again, you want to be gentle with it. We don't want to develop any gluten-forming proteins. We want to make sure that the butter is intact. And once it starts looking like it could come together into a dough, and that's what we're really going for, I'm going to put the fork down and I'm going to get my bowl scraper. This is that malleable piece of plastic. And I'm going to clean off my fork, and I'm just going to gather it together into a ball of dough. And yes, it's very shaggy looking. So don't get upset if it doesn't mix all together that well. It's going to be very shaggy looking. You're going to see chunks of butter. You may see a little bit of egg, but we're going to get it all together. But again, it's a very gentle mixing. And once we have this into a ball of dough, and you can see that it really is, we're ready to roll it out. So I put our ball of dough, as rough as it looks, onto a work surface, and I need to flour the work surface. Now, I'm a very big proponent of not over flouring. Here you want to add enough flour because we don't want this butter to stick. So let me just move my dough over a little bit, and I'm going to give a good healthy dose of flour. And we're going to brush it off if it gets too much, but we really don't want the butter to be too exposed or else we're going to lose it onto our work surface and it won't stay in our dough. So I'm going to take this shaggy thing that we're going to call a dough soon, and I'm going to take a rolling pin And we're actually going to roll it out to an 8 by 18 inch rectangle. And it will happen. We will be able to do this. So I have a measuring stick that's about 18 inches long, and we're going to try to get an 8 by 18 inch. If you notice, I didn't attack the dough. I did it nice and gently. And if you see the longer end is coming to you and you feel more comfortable if the long end was this way, just lift it up. As long as it's floured on the bottom, you should be able to move it. So I just moved it 90 degrees. And I have my bench scraper or my dough scraper. Unlike my bowl scraper, which was flexible, this is not. And this will help me guide my dough. So I want to get to, like I said, an 8 by 18 inch rectangle. And you see I stuck a little bit. If I stick, I'm going to add a little flour. And yes, you can see large chunks of butter, and that's all good. The butter is all good because that's what we want. That's what's going to make our Danish pastry flaky. So we want to get 18 inches, and we are just about there. And we want 8 inches. All right, so a little bit wider than 8 inches, so I'm just going to make it work. And then we're going to add some more butter. Oh yeah, we're going to add more butter because normally we would have about a pound of butter in a traditional Danish pastry recipe. This really has 2 sticks, but we're going to add more. The whole thing about Danish pastry and these laminated doughs, they have layer of dough, butter, hundreds of them. So what I've done is taken 6 tablespoons of butter from a stick of butter and sliced it into about 4 thin slices, and I'm going to put it down the center of the dough. If you buy your butter in half sticks, you can just do separate pieces of tablespoons. So just put your 6 tablespoons along the middle, all right? And the butter should not be too cold. It should be sort of a little bit soft. You can see I can push my finger in it, but it's not too soft, all right? Now we're going to do a letter fold. Remember letters? Nobody sends letters anymore, right? So we're going to flip over one side over here. And you can see it's a little floury. So we're going to get rid of some of that flour. And then we're going to flip the left side over. All right? That is known as a letter fold, and we're encasing the butter. We're enclosing the butter. Now, so far, this dough took like 5 minutes, really hardly anything at all. Now, we have to do a series of folds and turns, just like we did with puff pastry. So again, I'm going to flour, and this time, we're going to do a 10 by 18 inch rectangle. And you notice the dough is not as scraggly looking as it was. It doesn't look like one of those shaggy sheepdogs. It actually looks better than it used to because we're working it very, very gently. All right. So get your length. We want 18. Remember, this from here to here is about 18. If you go a little longer, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Now we're going to go a roll to the left, a roll down the middle, and a roll to the right. And that will sort of straighten out your rectangle and get it more rectangularized. I made up that word. So it will actually not go into like weird shapes, all right? And you want to get it, it's not going to be too thin, but it's not going to be too thick either, the dough. And you're still going to see swirls and sort of chunks of butter throughout, and that's a good thing. You want that. So let's see if we're at 10 inches. We're about 10, and we're about 18. I want to get it a little more straightened out. You really do want to make sure that you have as close to a perfect rectangle as you can. Although, again, it doesn't have to be perfect. You do want to line up your layers because this will affect your layers of your dough. All right, now we're going to do what's known as a book fold. Before, to enclose the butter, we did a letter fold. Now this is a book fold. So you're going to bring one side in to the middle. You're going to bring the other side in to the middle, and they should look about the same. If they're not, this one looks a little bit wider, go Go back a little bit and bring this up to it. Just so they meet. You see what I'm doing? Now we're going to close the book. So we're going to flip this over. Notice I just made a book and I just closed it. All right? That's one book fold. We're going to do this 2 more times. If it sticks, and it's sticking, so I get my trusty dough scraper, and that means more flour is needed. Okay, I actually said I need more flour. So we're going to put it down. And don't be skimpy with the flour. You need it here. So we're going to put this down. We're going to do the same exact thing, 10 by 18 inches. Gently. If you see any butter peeking out, flour it. Quickly, just put a pinch of flour on it. All right, and I see a little peakage over here of flour, so we're going to just put a little bit more there. Again, if I want a rectangular eyes, I'm making up this word as I go along. You roll to the left, roll in the middle, roll to the right. And you'll stop any of those funky shapes you're getting. Look how nice and smooth the dough is now. It doesn't look like a shaggy dog, does it? Actually looks good. All of our rolls, our rolling and our folding has actually straightened this baby out. Okay? So let's measure again. Are we at 18? Almost. We're almost there. Again, you want to make sure you're a perfect rectangular shape as possible. I got to put that word in Wikipedia. Rectangularize. Maybe it already is a word. I don't know. All right, so 10 inches. Let's see, are we at 10? We are at 10. So we're going to do second book fold. Remember, left side into the middle. Right side into the middle. And if it's not perfectly straight, a rectangle, make it fit. Sort of pull it out gently. All right? If you see there's a little too much flour, get rid of it on the inside and close the book. Close the book. One more time and our dough is done. That's it. One more time and our dough is done. How's that for Danish in a hurry? Pretty good. All right, another 10 by 18. And it's sort of fun to do this. I mean, it really is. Look how lovely this dough is. Really beautiful. So again, I'm going to go left, middle, right. And you don't want to really slam it with that rolling pin. Do it gently. Be gentle with your dough. And you won't rip it and you won't expose that butter. We don't want that butter on the outside. We want it on the inside where it's going to create flaky layers. Okay? This is one of the richest doughs of the laminated dough category. Remember, there's Danish, there's puff pastry, and there's croissants. But this is the only one that has milk and egg in it and a little sugar. It's really a little bit richer than most of them. That's why it's so good. We're only at 8 inches, so we got to go wide. We got to go wide. 2 more inches. All right, let's see if we're at 18. We are. See what I'm doing? We're at 10. I'm rectangularizing. Oh, yeah. Okay. Again, make a book. In the center, see all that butter exposed? Don't worry about it. That's going to go on the inside. You don't have to flour it now. All right. This one going in the middle, we're going to pull this one up just a little bit. And if it does stick because the butter is getting exposed there, I'm just going to shove a little flour underneath. And we're going to close the book. Close the book. Now we are done. This is Danish dough in a hurry, but I'm going to give it a rest. It's gotten a little soft because we've worked it a little bit. So I'm going to give it about a 30-minute rest, and I'm going to wrap it in plastic wrap. So I'm going to wrap it in plastic wrap real tight. You can have many options at this point. You can wrap it for 30 minutes and then just make your Danish. You can freeze it for several months, just date it and label it and thaw it out in the refrigerator, or you can leave it overnight. But either way, you have Danish in like 20 minutes, your Danish dough is done. All right, you ready to roll it out? So here you have a basic Danish dough in a hurry, and we made it very, very quickly in under 20 minutes. So I have many options. I can put it in the refrigerator for 30 minutes, up to a day or two, or I can even freeze it and date it and label it. Any recipe that calls for a basic Danish dough, you got it right here. I'm going to be making a video called Raspberry Spiral Danish, and these are them, and they are spectacular. I'm going to be using this dough as well. So I've had so much fun making this with you. Until next time.